Hi, everybody. Welcome back to Autistically Inclined. This week, I have my friend Lucy here again. This week, we'll be tackling the subject that is ableism in schools. How are you, Lucy?
I'm great.
You look
I
great.
thank you. I need to get closer to my microphone. Hopefully, I'll have an extra microphone, an actual microphone. We've already screwed
That
this up.
again. So the last time we talked, you told me quite a few interesting stories about your time in school.
Yes, yes, I did. Unlike Faith, how long you weren't in the public system for very long at all.
Oh yeah, before we start, we should specify that I was homeschooled for the majority of my life,
I was not.
more unschooled. Um, yeah, I was in for like kindergarten to grade one, was wildly unpopular. I was uncool fully. And then I went back in grade seven, but we will get into that later. But I did online schooling for high school.
Wish
Other
I
than
did
that,
that.
I did like maybe 2 years in the school system.
I suffered through the whole thing. I don't know
I'm
why I
so
keep doing
sorry.
this. I feel like I'm like 12. It's because
I
I
don't know,
work.
like
It's
you've been
good.
hanging out with me too much. Okay, anyway, so the last time you were on, you talked specifically about how you were, I don't even know, like how you were like punished.
I think
I
it's.
would rather say, mildly abused, but we'll say
I
like
mean, I just didn't say literally shoved to the side. Except the side wasn't good enough. I was shoved out of the
it's
fucking
it's like
room.
the modern equivalent of a dunce cap. Like it's something right out of like Anne of Green Gables. And
Okay,
I'm
so
like,
here's the thing. So let's begin. No, you know what? When you say dunce cap, I think of that Frosty the Snowman animated movie. Do you not know
so
what I'm
off
talking about?
topic. So off
It's
topic,
not, because they
later
have the dunce
discussion.
caps. Autism people,
Later.
learn.
Oh my god.
Here we go. So, I mean, I had preschools and stuff. I think I was kicked out of a lot of play groups. I have a very vivid memory of my mom carrying me screaming across the road out of a play group.
hmm
Just me screaming like a banshee. And lost my preschool where my mom came to mother and daughter day and I just ruined it for literally everyone there. Beyond that, um, primary in Nova Scotia is the same as kindergarten. We call it primary here. I don't know why. But for primary, basically I just got literally like bullied by my entire class except for one other kid. And my teacher also had a thing against me, by the way. So eventually I got bullied out of that school. My mom had to petition and get me into the school my sister went to. So it was like, great, okay. That was awful, blah, blah, blah. Alright, first grade, we're at a new, great school. Things are going to be great. So my teacher, I'm not joking, because you can't make this stuff up. Her name was literally Ms. Payne. That was her name.
Well, that's an omen right
I
there.
just remember her going, pain, like a window pane. I'm like, no, you're a fucking pain in my ass. Except I didn't phrase it like that because I was 5. But the point still
Yeah.
stands. Anyway, okay, so you know how when you're in elementary school and you have those like cutesy little name tags that like a lot of the time as a kid you get to color them yourself and they're stuck to your desk and everyone has one so you can see where everyone's
hmm
sitting? Right? So I had one of those on my desk like every other kid. I
Yeah.
also had a second desk with a name tag on it. I had 2 name tags that was outside in the hallway. Anyway, so I literally had 2 desks. I had one in the classroom like everyone else, and I had a second desk with my name on it in the hallway. And I spent most of my time out, not even in the corner. I spent a lot of time in the corner as a kid, don't get me wrong, but the corner wasn't good enough for this teacher, so she literally put me in the hallway.
Wait, she put you in the corner as well.
I think the corner was, I mean, the memories are blurry. I think she put me in the corner, and then I guess I was still too distracting, so then she put me in the hallway.
I'm I'm always like astounded because I had shit in school, but I'm truly astounded by like just the ignorance and like the full-on abuse that happens as if it's nothing.
Yeah, and this was after I got moved out of a school. This
Oh,
was
you were
supposed to be
cutting out.
This was after I got moved out of like the bad school. Like this was supposed to be a better school.
hmm
Um, Luckily the next year I moved to grade 2 and had like the best teacher ever. Shout out to Mr. Hadaway. Best teacher ever. Good job for treating kids like kids and not problems. It's also humiliating, like literally having a labeled desk in the hallway.
I think that like falls into like the like if we look at that in like in terms of like the shame level there for such a small child to have to deal with. And I was talking to another friend about this the other day, and she was talking about how in school.
By the way, that was all pre-diagnosis. That was no diagnosis.
Wait, how old were you?
5 or 6.
Oh my God. No, I was talking to a friend the other day, and she was talking about how the shame of like just having to have accommodations.
Yeah.
And just having to go to a different room for tests. She was like, I would rather fail than have to explain it, than have to be singled out. And she did have a lot of issues in high school because she wasn't out to like her classmates. Mm-hmm. But she also, she had to be questioned by, her teachers and everything about, well, why can't you? Like, why can't you just write it in this amount of time and this, that, and the other? And she just constantly was questioned for everything she needed.
Yeah.
And I went through the same thing. I got really crappy accommodations in high school to the point where I was like, done school. I didn't graduate. You know that. I didn't graduate. I had life got in the way, mental health got in the way. And it was a hassle and a fight to get the accommodations I needed. And I was terrified to go to university because I was like, it's going to be the same shit, different pile. And in terms of people actually believing I'm disabled now, huge change. Thank God.
Because in terms of my experience, like everybody in elementary school, and most of middle school knew that I had a disability. Like it was something just everybody knew, and I did not have any control over it. So I think for me, I haven't really had that kind of thing necessarily, just because I was so used to everybody knowing anyway.
Mm-hmm.
So it wasn't really, I don't know if that makes any sense.
Yeah,
it was less of me trying to hide because I was like, people already know. And it was the sort of thing, even in high school where not everybody knows, like, there are like 60 kids who I went to elementary school with, they all know, so like, also I was a music kid and we're the scum of the earth anyway, so like.
I mean, you've discussed before about your being outed, and we've touched on that. But in terms of teachers being, I guess, I feel like just the beginning of the end for most students that are on the spectrum. I had a friend who was just bullied every day. Just like horribly. Like she would go and sit in class and people would throw things at her and call her slurs and call her fat and just any other thing that could possibly be an insult. And I was like, what do you mean? Like where's the teacher? And she was like, well, like they're there, but they don't do anything. And I was like sitting there and I was like, how has the school system failed disabled kids so badly? Like I don't have it, like it's not, at that point you're enabling it. Yeah. There's literally, all you have to do is be like, don't. Literally, you have to threaten them, and if it doesn't work, you send them to the principal's office. It's from an ableist standpoint if they're allowing that. Do you know what I mean? Because there's no other reason.
Because when you said send them to the principal's office, I was like, I was always the kid that was sent to the principal's office.
Well, this is the thing, right?
For distracting all the other kids who are trying to learn.
Yeah, well, you were marked as the problem kid, right? You said that. And 100%. It's never talked about, the kids who like bully the kids on the spectrum.
Mm-hmm.
And it's amazing, like, what they get away with.
Yeah. What about you, Faith?
Well, as you know, I was homeschooled for the majority. I didn't graduate high school. I did it online, and life and mental health and honestly not being able to get the support I needed in school kind of got in the way. And I hit a certain point and I hit a certain age where I was like, this is miserable. This is horrible. I am not a person who can learn online. And I had to do everything through my high school. And I spent all of high school thinking I was a complete failure. And I just didn't know anything and I was completely ignorant. So that was fun. You know, we love that.
Was that like when we met?
I spent a brief time in school. I was in for like kindergarten, grade 1, was uncool, super uncool. I didn't even have cute clothes. That's how young it starts. Like, looking back, it is crazy to me that that's how young cliques start. They start in senior kindergarten.
Bullied out of primary. Had
it's
to switch
crazy.
Schools. Literally got bullied out of the school.
It's mind-boggling.
Yeah.
So I went back in grade 7.
Why did you go back?
I think it was the thing of, like, I wanted to go to school. My mom and I don't know if my mom was back at school by this point, but my mom and I, despite her being, like, the person who homeschooled me, we also, like, she just didn't have we didn't always get along. And I think we would just get so easily frustrated with one another.
I've seen this in action.
Yeah. So I think it's too because we're very similar, but also very different. So my brother can help me with schoolwork, and I will go to him for schoolwork because he has a great idea as to how my brain works. My mother doesn't as much. And that's just because we are different people in that regard. But I went back to school, but the problem was my mom was really worried, and she was like, you know, I don't know if you're going to be able to do it. It's going to be a lot. It's going to be a huge adjustment. It's going to be sensory overload. And then she talked to the school board, and they were like, oh, well, how about 7th inning? And she was like, what the hell is that? And 7th inning was like an alternative school. And it was smaller. It was like smaller classrooms. So it was like 10 kids max. There was a teacher, and then there were like two other teachers / like social worker-esque people, like aides, I guess, kind of thing. But I showed up like the first day, and I don't know how this didn't come up, but this was also the school where all the kids who got kicked out of their previous school went. So this was a bunch of kids who had been kicked out for using drugs, for not showing up, for bullying other kids. And
Great place to send a disabled kid.
Yeah, and they sent little old me. And back then too, I like followed the rules. And I had too much of a fear of authority, but also I just respected authority too much, even though I really shouldn't have, looking back. But yeah, I remember going to 7th inning. We had this thing called PLM, which was personal life management, and we spent 2 weeks. We spent 2 weeks, because we do a different thing every day, every Wednesday, and we spent 2 weeks on drugs. On the subject of drugs, not actually on drugs.
I was like, what kind of helped was this?
No, it would have helped. Well, because so many of the kids, I remember the first day I showed up, and I had like a shock to my system. Because keep in mind, I'm also 12. And it was literally, the school was a portable attached to a little like house that was attached to more houses. And so we went out for like a recess, and we just went to the side of the portable, and I was like, okay, I haven't been kicked out of like the group. No one's told me to fuck off yet. And I was really excited. I'm like, okay, maybe I can make it work. And one kid pulled out a cigarette and another kid pulled out a lighter, and I like froze. And I was like, you're 12. Like, what are you doing? And they were like, you smoke? And I was like, and I ran away. And, well, I turned away and just like, yeet. But I turned around and there was one of the teachers there. And I was like, and I think it was her response that worried me the most, because she was just like, okay, guys, put out the cigarette. Like, she's done this 1,000 times before, like with other classes. And I was just, and we were off and running at that point, and that was the first day, and that pretty much was the rest of my year. This was the only time I've really had to deal with out and out bullying that wasn't like mean girl bullshit.
Oh, really?
I had, they learned really quickly that the R word really upset me. Because this wasn't long after, this will go into another video. We're overlapping right now, but I left my first dance studio, who I had been with them for years, because they were using, one of the students was using hate speech, and they were using the R word. And when we went to my teacher, she didn't do anything. So I had just come off of that. I had just had to leave. It was right when the R word was really reaching its peak of, this is the cool new word to say. And one of the kids, total asshole, he figured this out and he would not let it drop. And so I remember one day, this kid was suspended at least 3 times for bullying me. Like, no other reason, just for bullying me. And he definitely, I remember he wrote a note. He wrote a note about me one day. And it was like a whole thing of him giving the note to another kid and then her giving it to me and dropping it in my lap. And I handed it to my teacher because I knew clearly they wanted me to see it, right? And so instead he just like yelled what was written on it, right? And I think I left class crying. And he got suspended. I think that was maybe the second time or first time. But it was really bad. And, you know, looking back, I blame that kid. That kid was an asshole. That kid didn't have a ton of home life issues. He was just an ass. But there were a lot of kids there who just, their home lives were not great. And I could tell. And I think one girl one day like locked herself in the bathroom and was like vandalizing shit or something. And her dad came in after, and the teacher was talking to him, and she was like, I'm going to get a beating when I go home now. And it was just, they didn't have an easy time ever, like any of these kids. And I didn't really blame them for anything. And none of them were absolutely terrible to me, aside from the one. But the teachers, I'm still to this day am annoyed that I didn't know how to stand up for myself properly, just within the teachers. Because speaking of shoulders, we were talking about shoulders earlier. That's when I left school, is because we would have like our physical education at the Y, and we would go and play basketball and we would swim. And one day I wore a tankini, like a new bathing suit, and I got cornered after school by the teachers after everyone else had left. And my teacher, this grown man, so I was like sitting waiting for my cab home, and they just like surrounded me. And he was like talking about my shoulders, and he was like, well, your suit is very nice, but you do have to wear, there was a rule that I kind of thought was more of a suggestion, that the girls have to wear t-shirts over their swimsuits. And I did not take that to heart because it made no sense to me. And he said, you know, it's a nice swimsuit and everything, but it shows your shoulders. And I was like, okay. And I went home, of course, like I was like breaking down in the cab because I had this huge thing where all my teachers came at me for wearing a bathing suit. And so I was furious, and I talked to like my mom about it. And then so I went back and I said, okay, I will wear a t-shirt over my swimsuit, but then the boys should have to as well. And his response was, well, that's from the school board, and the school board doesn't make the boys wear swimsuits. And I said, cool, that's sexist. But yeah, I left around then because I was like, okay, there's nothing worth attending this school for anymore. I particularly too, like, thinking back how this man, like, just how the girls were treated. The girls were obviously, like, before they had even done anything, they were getting in trouble. One girl got not suspended. She had to, like, stay after class because this much of her bra was showing on either side because she had a halter.
I remember we had we had like the thickness of straps. I think you had to have 2 or 3 fingers.
That's bullshit. See, okay, so I'm homeschooled, and I come back and I find out that this is how it works, and that everyone's okay with this. Well, one of the other things too that there was a point system in place that at the end of the day, it would be like, okay, if you followed the rules, then you get X amount of points, right? And I had such a hard time with the whole telling the truth versus I'm a tattletale. And this was so difficult for me because I would follow the rules. So if people, including the staff were ready to jump on me if I broke a rule. Like, it was insane. And so I had that dynamic, but if I did that to anyone else, I got in shit. And I could not understand it. I'm like, if that isn't somehow a punishment for me, and if that isn't, and like, it's not, I can't say it was the kids, because it wasn't just the kids, it was the kids. But I remember one of the staff members just like having it out for me that day and being like, she said, oh, I think it was something, so like, it was such a reach. I think I said Twilight was stupid. And they got to like put downs if you put anyone down. She said, yeah, you said Twilight was stupid. This is a fucking teacher. And she said, but I put down Twilight. And so I got a point taken away. And I was like sitting there so lost because I was like, what? I don't understand what you're telling me because you want me to follow the rules. And I feel like I'm being dishonest if I know someone else broke a rule and I'm not telling them. Like, it's now a thing for me because I'm being dishonest because I know what actually happened. And it just became like this whole thing, and I was lost. I was lost. It made no sense to me. And I was like furious because so much of the teachers just enabled everything. And I could have had such an easy time of it if they had gotten their shit together and they had properly protected me.
Like, hearing this stuff from you, there's stuff I'm even realizing now that, like, I never even really thought about because by the time I got to that age, it was just so normal that it was like, you know.
Yeah. No, I think I have a unique thing because, well, I went to a school where there were definitely extremes with other students, but I was astounded and I couldn't believe that this is what was going on. Like, I didn't get it. And I was trying so hard. And I tried so hard to not piss off my peers and to appease my teachers. And there was no right way to do it. And I got trampled on by both. And I look back at that and I want to go back and yell at them because they fucked up so badly. There was so much wrong. I could literally do a full video just about my experience at that school. But yeah, it's crazy. When you're in it, you don't realize, right? But I wasn't in it, so
No. It was like, when we were clearing at my parents' house, I saved some of them, but I found old, like, progress reports from, like, going back to, like, you know, preschool and stuff, talking about me as a kid, and some of the stuff teachers said was, like, you know, it's insane. Some of the stuff, Again, like even in primary, where like my parents said my teacher fully had it out for me when I was 5. You know?
Mm-hmm.
It's tough.
Yeah.
I think it's also, when I was a kid, I think a lot of the time people thought I was trying to deliberately be defiant. A lot of the time I just didn't understand things. Like the time I got sent to the principal's office for flipping off my teacher. I didn't even know that was a thing. I was trying to show people a cut on my finger. And the teacher didn't even listen to me. She just saw me do this and sent me right to the office.
Yeah.
And then the principal started like beating down. Well, the principal started like lecturing me, and then I think the principal realized I had no idea what was going on. And then actually, like the teacher didn't even let me explain anything.
Well, and I think back then, like, I'm not cutting them slack because like they don't deserve it, quite honestly. But back then, too, autism, especially in females, like they had a very, if you said autistic child, you pictured like a little boy who likes math a lot, who's rocking in the corner.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think, I don't know. I think it's getting better. I don't think it's good enough at all. Like, I think it's where it should have been when we were in school.
Yeah.
When I was like, when you were in school, when my friends were in school. But yeah, I just don't think people have a basic understanding. And I think teachers, there are some amazing teachers, but there are some really horrendous teachers that don't realize the trauma that they're inflicting.
Yeah.
And that like kids grow up, if you are with a kid at a certain age and you hit the wrong nerve at the wrong time, it stays. It does not go away. And it can take years to unlearn that behavior, right?
Mm-hmm.
And to just like unlearn the shame that you've been told to feel around who you are as a human being, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there's definitely a long way to go. I am glad it's not at a standstill. I don't think people understand. I just don't think people understand the amount of shame that comes with needing help or being different in that setting.
Yeah.
Thank you for coming back on the show and showing videos, for talking about this with me so that I'm not just the only one disclosing my educational trauma, I guess. I'm excited for whatever topics we cover next. And thank you for everyone who watched the entire video, a little bit of the video, any part of it. Please like, subscribe, share, really anything, so that this kind of thing doesn't keep happening and there's less ignorance around this topic. Thank you so much for watching. Bye.